A little over a year ago, Radiomaster released this set of sensors that can plug into their own receivers and give a whole bunch of fun and cool information back, and you can display that with telemetry. And one of these sensors is their ERS-GPS module. And that got me thinking immediately, how could I use that in these cars and planes to show off things like where I went, my position, my speed, heading, all of this cool information? How can I get that into a telemetry capable format that I could use in my videos and showing it on screen, and just things that would make the videos cooler? So without any further ado, let's dive in. And before we get too far into it, there are a few gotchas that you should at least consider before following along. These sensors only work with a handful of Radiomaster receivers. They work with the ER8, the ER6, which I have on my Rustler, as well as the ER8V and VG receivers. And that's because they have this little port on the back. And that is how we connect our GPS to our receiver, is via this RX-TX port in the back. So if you happen to have the MT12, which came with this ER5C V2, you might think, well, heck, this is a car receiver and we got a car with a GPS, it should work. Unfortunately, different receivers like this ER5C doesn't have the RX-TX port, therefore we can't use it with this GPS. So if you're sitting with this, consider upgrading. These things are only like 20, 30 bucks, so really good investment, and they also allow you to add some really cool things. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you've got the right receiver that pairs with this GPS. All right, so what's on the docket for us? We're going to show you how to install and set up the GPS and how to connect it to one of the approved receivers, as well as how to get the telemetry logging on your transmitter and how I would do it personally with a toggle switch, how we can use those logs to show where your GPS data is, as well as a really cool free custom firmware that I made and put up on our GitHub, and how we can use that custom firmware to turn your GPS information into a little animated path which shows you exactly where you went. So let's dive in. And here we have our GPS module in the flesh, and it looks pretty cool. It's really sleek, it's pretty light, and it fits pretty much on any vehicle you want. And there's a few key things we've got to look at when we are setting this thing up. On the front, we can see we've got an out on one side and an in on the other. These ports are identical, and that's because Radiomaster has set up this system to allow daisy chaining between these different sensors. So if you want the GPS and the voltage reader and all the altimeter and all the other sensors they have, you can just daisy chain from sensor to sensor all the way back to our receiver. But in this case, we need to make sure that we plug in into the out, because we can think about this as all the information on this GPS is going out of this port. These sides are identical, so I'm going to plug into the out. There, see, we have out, and that will plug into the only available port on this module. So plugging in there, and that's the whole thing. That's how you set it up. So we are now going to test it with this little battery pack, which I use to test all my different sensors and servos. But we can plug that in here, and we should get power. And we've got something right here. We've got this green light, which means it is searching for satellites. And we also have a little red light here. Now the red light means that it is looking for both GPS position, speed, heading, all of these different attributes this GPS is trying to get. Now, if we click and hold, it'll change to blue. Now blue means it's going to be optimizing itself for speed. So if you want to get a really good time trial and speeds and all the fastest information about your current speed, have it in blue. But in my case, I want it to be red because I do want that GPS, the heading, all of these sort of peripheral GPS information I want. So I'm going to have it in the red setting. Now, if this is the first time plugging in this GPS, it won't work right away. And that's because this GPS needs to acquire its satellites and kind of cache those satellites so that next time you use it, it'll be able to find that information a lot easier. So right now, we're blinking. We're inside. We've got no way to find satellites, and so it's just going to sit there and blink for a while. The best thing we can do is take this system outside and wait for it to find satellites so that when it's time to connect to our transmitter, it will know which satellites to look for. So let's go outside and let's find some satellites. So after walking around outside for a little bit, this green light has turned solid, which means this can see satellites now. It's getting information, And it's not doing anything with that GPS information yet because we're not bound to our receiver, but it does see the satellites and we should be good to go. So next step is binding this up to our transmitter and then configuring the telemetry data to store it in the logs. All right, so now we're on our transmitter. I'm going to go over to a brand new model and walk through this whole process with you. First thing we're going to do is turn on the ELRS. So I'm going to go over to Model, Page Over, and we're going to scroll down until we get to the internal RF, which of course is Crossfire because this has an internal ELRS radio. So I'm going to return, and we're going to go over to System, Express LRS, which is going to load up all this fun stuff. I'm going to scroll down until I see bind. So now we are connected to our receiver, and I'm going to go model, page all the way over until I get to telemetry. So we can discover new sensors because of course we do have this telemetry sensor. So if we discover new, we've got all sorts of fun information here. So if we scroll up a little bit, we can already see some GPS information. These are the normal ones you already have, the link quality, link stability, all that stuff, but we have GPS. Now I'm going to blur out my GPS location, but this is where the GPS location would be held, as well as the current speed, the heading, which is kind of where you're pointing, northeast, southwest, the altitude, I guess I'm at 231 meters above sea level. I also can see 8 satellites, as well as the RX battery, all that other stuff too. But we do have this telemetry data coming in from this GPS sensor. So what we want to do is to display this in a way that is easy to read, and it can do some readouts, it can tell us this information, and on top of that, we want that GPS location to be logged once every second while our transmitter is armed. That way we can tell where we are, where we're driving, where we're going, and we can store all that information to the logs. So our first step is attaching this GPS logging step to a specific switch. And I usually attach that switch to my kill switch because I figured if I'm not driving, I have no reason to record these logs. So when I am disarmed, no logs. Then when I arm, I start taking logs. And that's really simple. If we start in the telemetry page, we're going to page over to the left one time until we get to the special functions. Now we're going to click and scroll, and now we can set which switch we want this to be on. Now my kill switch is this one down here, which is this back switch, and I have it so that when it is pulled, it is disarmed, and pushed, it is armed. So I'm going to push it, meaning I am currently armed. And when we are armed, we're going to go and find the SD log special function. So once we find SD logs, we can scroll over and we're saying once every second, we want to write one log to the file. And lastly, we are going to enable this special function. So now when we are armed, it will take a log every second. Disarmed, it won't. Now this SA is not highlighted, which means we are not taking logs. Now it's highlighted, we are taking logs. It's that simple. So now that we've got our logging in place, there's one little extra step that I like to add in just to confirm that we are logging and aren't logging when it's out of the field. So we're going to do the exact same thing we just did. We're going to click on here and we're going to select our switch, which in this case, it's going to be armed. So when we are logging, I want it to play a track that says start, just so I have that mental reminder that's saying, yes, we are logging. So after we are armed, I'm going to scroll over to play track. Click on that, and now we're going to scroll down to start, which is a ways down there, but doesn't take too long. There's start, and now we are going to go over and enable. So you just heard it there. When we enable logging, it starts, but when we're done, it doesn't say stop. So I'm going to go down one more, click, disable, so flip our switch back, and we're going to go once again over to play track. And then this time we're going to do stop. And once we enable it, stop. Now, this is a pretty good place to be at because we know that when we are disarmed and just waiting, nothing is going to be logging, but it's time to drive, we can start the logging. We've got this top SD log special function going. Once every second, we're getting all this information from our GPS module. And when we're done driving, we can kill it with stop, which will be our kill switch. And we also have just stopped all the logging, which means we're not getting a whole bunch of duplicated logs. Another little thing that I like to add is a confirmation that we have found satellites that's not just relying on this little green light. We are going to add an audio cue from our transmitter that tells us, hey, we're ready, we found satellites. So this is, again, super easy. We're going to page over to our logical switches, press and hold, and now we have our function. We are going to be looking for A is greater than X. And our V1 is going to be a telemetry variable. So scroll down to telemetry, and we're going to be looking for that satellite indicator that we found earlier. Scroll to find it, and satellites. And we're going to change V2 to be whichever number you want. I'm going to choose 3 because realistically 3 satellites should be solid. Or if you're flying a plane or a quad or something, maybe bump that up to 5, 7, whichever you want. I'm going to choose 3. So this is just saying, our function is saying when the number of satellites is greater than 3, turn this switch on. So if we go back, we can see that we have more than 3 satellites because our logical switch is enabled. Now if we go back to special functions, scroll all the way down, we can now set up a new special function, but this time we're going to be basing it on a logical switch, not a physical one. So we're going to press and hold, scroll down to logical switch, and because LO1 is our only logical switch, and it's also the logical switch we just set up, we can see that it's enabled. Now if we scroll over to override, change that to play track, just like our other special functions, and we're going to set the thing that it's going to say is going to be GPS, or whatever you want, but I think GPS makes a whole lot of sense to me. So I have it saying GPS on, and last thing we're going to do is enable it and listen to what it says.
GPS on.
Great. That's all we need to do. So we can test this right now. I'm going to unplug this. Of course, our GPS went away. We lost telemetry, of course, we unplugged. I'm going to give it a second just to kind of disconnect from everything. We're also going to be disarmed. So now, well, we're waiting, and let's plug in.
Telemetry recovered. GPS on.
And just like that, we know that we've already have satellite lock because we heard that GPS on right after we connected to our receiver. Now, if it's time to go and drive and have fun, we start the logging, drive around for a while, get all that information onto the SD card in your Radiomaster unit. Then when it's time to be done, we stop the logging, we can unplug and use that logging information in our next step. The next step, of course, is driving this around. That's because their system is done. Our GPS can successfully log into your transmitter, and everything is stored on our SD card every second. As you can see, I was driving around the neighborhood a bit, getting these cul-de-sacs, then I was out at the field, just really enjoying the time. Take your time, go drive it around. It's really fun, it's really cool, and once you're done driving, take it back to your bench, take the SD card out of your transmitter, plug it in, and we can start our next step. And after we get done driving, we're going to take our SD card out of our Radiomaster. If you don't know where that is, there's a little side panel here on my MT12, and you can pull it back and you can see there's a little SD card slot. So you can click it out right here. And because I've got a Mac, I need an adapter. So I'm going to plug SD card in and then plug that into my computer, and then we can look at the SD card logs on the computer. All right, and once we're on our computer, we can go into the Finder if you're on Mac. On the side, there will be a no name SD card, and this is your transmitter's SD card. Click on it, and we're gonna click on the logs files. And I've driven it quite a few times, so I've got a lot of different files here, and they're always named. They're on the Rustler because this was the name of the vehicle in my transmitter, and then the date and time and some other hash from the transmitter. And we're gonna look at this Rustler drive one. I renamed it just so I could look at it. But if we double click, and we can see we've got a whole lot of fun information that comes from our transmitter, the time, the signal from the transmitter. But if we look over here, we got the GPS, the speed, heading, the altitude, and the satellites, which is really cool. And right now, this information is only mildly helpful because what can we really do with this raw output? You could do it by hand, you could plot it. That might be a little difficult for most of us. But thankfully, I've got this program that I made and I'm going to put it up on our GitHub. So if you want to use it, feel free. It's absolutely free. If you do want to help support the channel, there is a Buy Me a Coffee link, and you could also like and subscribe and do all the normal stuff. But there's a Buy Me a Coffee link if you want to. If you don't, totally free. You use it however you want. But if we minimize and go to my desktop, there is a GPS visualizer app that I made, or it's just a normal program. We're going to double click, open that up, and it should hopefully be pretty easy from GitHub to get this yourself because I like making things nice and free and easy for everybody to use. So in just a second, this will open. And here we are. So I'm gonna make this full screen, and this looks like a lot going on, but we can just follow the instructions. Drop our CSV file here. So we're gonna go back to our Finder, and I'm just gonna drag this CSV file over to this drag and drop area. And already we have all this information over here. This is just a preview. It's showing exactly where I went. You can see I went around the track, I went around the pond a little bit, I drove around, and he came back. So next we can look at our output file, select wherever you want it to go. In this case, I'm gonna put it into my folder for this video, which is in folders, in the GPS. It's got all this cool stuff. Set the file there. The output type, I want it to be an MP4 file, and the output file name we'll call it the telemetry both overlay. Going one more step, our output is a couple different options. If you want to render either the map, the speedometer, or both, in this case I want both. And all these columns can be pretty much left alone. These are just the default telemetry settings from our transmitter, but if you want to change it to any of these other information settings, go ahead and do it, but it won't work if you do it like that. Then set up however many frames you want. I usually have these videos in 24 frames a second, so I'll leave it at 30. And because our transmitter is logging data every 1 second, I will leave this at 1 second. Also, there's an auto max speed. Because this program looks at that CSV file, it can tell what our max speed was. In this case, that was around 15 miles an hour. So it says the top end of our speedometer to 15 miles an hour. If you want to set it yourself, you can unclick this and set it, hey, look at now it goes up to 60. It's not like my RC car can go 60, but it shows that it might. But in this case, I like having the top speed being the actual top speed for me. And then down here, we also have, if you want to change the path to something else, red path. Cool, now we got a red path. Or if we want to go back to that blue is kind of fun. Great, we can set it there. You can change the path, the dot, the line here for the speedometer, this needle, and we have that in the middle. One other thing, if this says transparent background, it may or may not actually be transparent, but what you can do is click it and then set the background, or you can set the background color yourself. So if you have it unselected, click background, and now I want it to be a nice easy color that's easy to green screen out. Now that, I'm sorry for blasting you with green, but green is really easy to green screen. And now all I have to do is click create. And this will take a second because it is rendering these little videos. And in just a second, I will show how I then will take this information and paste it onto my driving around video. Alrighty, and after it's done rendering, we got this little notification it created this rendering at that location, which is again where we had the output. So I'm going to go into that output folder and find it. Again, it's there. And our telemetry, both right here. So we bring that in, and now what we see is the path that I took, as well as the speed, which I think is pretty cool. So at any given moment, you see I kind of stopped here, look at some geese. Then I sped around, came back, and now we're done. Oh, no, we'll do a couple more loops. But you can see that is how it works. And this is green. Again, if you want it transparent, click the transparent button. If you want a specific color, set it yourself. All things that are available through this app that I made. I think it's really cool, and I really like it. It makes it a lot easier to put this information. And if you want to go a step further to actually add it to your videos, heck, why not? We're already here. Might as well show off how I do that as well, because again, if other people get to do it, that's really cool. And I think it helps the hobby, just showing off all these fun tips and tricks. So we're in now our video, and if I drag our video over to our timeline, we can look at the actual driving that I'm doing, you know, a whole lot of fun driving around. At one point I see a little bit of geese over here, looking really cool. But if we want to add our telemetry overlay, if I add it directly like this, yeah, it looks a little green for now, but that's a really easy thing to fix. If we go over to effects and add a color key onto our overlay and then scroll down, instead of it being blue, if we hit this little indicator, select our green color, and then change this tolerance up until the green goes away, and keep scrolling up until we get to what we want. So now we've got a nice path and our speedometer, and if we go one step further, we add a little mask to our speedometer. We can now only get our speedometer, and I'll throw that into an opacity, and now we can move this speedometer over into the corner, scale it up, and just like that, as we're driving around, we got a nice little speedometer in the corner. And you have to, of course, sync that up with the actual video. I think I'm a little off, but we've got a little speedometer. And if you put all that together and put a little more effort into it, it'll look something like this, where we have driving around with our path at the bottom, our speedometer on the side. And I think in the end, it looks really clean, really nice. It's fun to just add these cool things to different videos. And that's pretty much everything. That's how you set up your GPS module onto your planes, cars, automobiles, whatever you want to use, and how to also log that data and visualize it with the tool that I made. And once again, that's totally free. It's up on our GitHub page, which will be linked up here or up here. It'll be linked somewhere, totally free. And again, if you want to help support the channel, we do have a Buy Me a Coffee link, just kicks back and everything. I can guarantee you will go directly back into this channel with these fun projects. Also, feel free to like, subscribe, become a member if you want. But again, if you don't want to, that program is totally free. Use it however you want. It was a fun project, and I hope you use it and make some cool stuff. So, thank you so much for watching. This has been Inverted Aviators RC, and see you next time.